And we are back with my mayor. And joining me in the Catalyst studio for the first time is newly minted candidate Robert Blackmon. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So how's life on the campaign trail?
Things are good. It's very exciting. Officially, as of today, been in for a week now. So just staying busy, talking to people, trying to get the word out and try and win this thing.
Cool. All right, so our question for this week, trying to get to know you, the person behind the policy, is in public education, what are three pieces of curriculum or topics or subjects that you think should be added altogether or should be taught more so than they are right now? So what's item number one?
First item that I think should be taught more in school is personal finance. So when I was in high school, we had economics class, which I enjoyed a lot. My teacher was Mr. Bryan at St. Pete High, and we got to do stock simulations and we got to do trade in the market. And I think that's more important than ever is dealing with personal finances. So, when you're young, you do stuff like writing a check, but balancing a checkbook, paying taxes, kind of real world applications of finance and numbers, and bringing math to a relatable standpoint. I think kids, they get out of high school and they just don't know where to go and what to do with, finances, and they don't have a good foundation for that. So I think absolutely, economic training, tax training, and balanced checkbook would be something that I think is really missing and dearly needed.
Yeah. And one of the biggest challenges in personal finance is people live beyond their means a lot. So would you agree that one of the first things you should understand is where actually you stand with regard to your revenue and your expenses? And as mayor, how would you guide folks in understanding living within their means?
So absolutely. And I think living within your means, no matter what your means are, is extremely important. And, that plays into the financial literacy aspect of what I think should be taught more. A good example is, rental prices, which are going up, and also mortgage payments. The true way to any type of equity is through equity, right? So if people have home ownership, that's most people's biggest asset when you look at a pyramid of people's finances. And making sure you can make your mortgage payments, making sure you get into an affordable home where you can make those payments and then realize that equity over years from what you've paid into is key. As we know, rent, people are becoming cost burdened by rents, and they say that you're supposed to have 3 times is the maximum. 3 times 1/3 of your salary is the most you can pay for rent. But just telling people these basic, kind of crib notes of how do you get from point A to point B and how do you make a good lifestyle is absolutely essential.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, let's move on with subject number 2.
So the second thing I think should be taught in school would be more practical hands-on skills. So when I was in middle school, we had a shop class. I know that's kind of gone way of the past with liability and potential for injury, but also with budget cuts. But shop class is kind of a good foray for kids to learn how to work with their hands, but also it plays into, as we get into high school and further on, the potential to have a good paying job moving forward. So there was an article that was widely circulated maybe 5-6 years ago saying 49 of the 50 states had a deficiency in skilled labor for the building trades. And that was 5-6 years ago. Now more than ever, there's a real demand for skilled labor force and showing kids that, hey, college is great and it's a path for many. And it's also a lot of fun too. But there's other ways you can make money other than just going to college. And, getting kids interested from a young age in the trades, if you have the skills, you can become a plumber, immediately start making great money and start building generational wealth for you and your family. Electricians, there's a huge demand for them right now as well. And just partnering with trade programs and showing kids that, hey, there is a lot of demand for kind of the older, skill set, which has been lost, which is skilled labor.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, a lot of folks kind of go into the traditional funnel, which is theoretically supposed to end up at college or university. But we have some amazing technical schools, and a lot of times they're overlooked simply because of the stigma attached to going to those types of schools. So, do you agree that there is that stigma, and if elected mayor, would you make efforts to increase the number of kids that are going to technical schools or technical school opportunities?
Absolutely. For one, we have so many different trade schools, P-Tech, as you mentioned, that gives kids a great grasp and understanding of air conditioning, repair and maintenance, plumbing, electrical, sheetrock. There's so many different trades that you can get into, but also we do have, and we need to show kids that there's a pipeline for union work too. We have, pipe fitters union, we have labor union. There's a number of different ways you can get involved and that you can get a good understanding of trades fairly easily, and you can start making good paying jobs, right out of high school.
All right, and what's the final subject?
So I'm going to make this into two because I really had four. And what I'm going to start out with is one thing that was taught to me in elementary school that seems to be lost in the world of today is the golden rule. And there's so much, especially in politics, but in the world as a whole, so much divisiveness, so much anger, so much hatred. And I think we just need to always look at how we're treating others and what public face we're putting forward, and if it's how we'd want to be treated as well. So I think the golden rule is something that seems maybe kind of hokey and old-fashioned, but if we treat each other with compassion, I think that would really go a long way towards understanding where others are coming from, but also connecting with our fellow man. But the second aspect of that I want to say is just scientific and STEM and STEAM education as a whole. So in my time on council, I've pushed for the revitalization of the Science Center on the West Side. It's where I went every single summer. My parents dumped me there for the different summer camps, but it was just such a great overview of different science. I took geology class, I took biology class, computers, robotics, rocket building, fishing. It was just such a big tent way for kids to kind of, hey, this is the scientific aspect I'm into today, maybe a different one tomorrow. And there was so much wonderful scientific learning. That's where I got the basis of all of my love and interest in science, was at the Science Center. It's now out of business, but the city owns the asset, and I'm looking towards revitalizing it. And I actually have 3 or 4 nonprofits right now committed to occupying that space and having it become kind of a food court type center for scientific learning where we have different nonprofits operating under one roof. So I think STEAM and STEM industries, because that's where the good paying jobs are going to be moving forward. Pinellas County is built out. We have no more land, and we're never going to have large scale manufacture. Our days of farming are over. And the only way we're going to be able to grow is through scientific and tech-based learning, and also environmental science like the marine sciences.
Thank you. In the first part of your answer, you mentioned divisiveness. Obviously, it's a huge problem, and it's a complex problem. And you mentioned, one of the potential countermeasures for divisiveness. What is in your opinion, what are some of the greatest causes of, or have been the greatest causes of divisiveness over the last few years?
I think a lot of it is just lack of compassion. So we all have our bubble that we operate out of, right? And we kind of stay in our own silo. And I think just kind of interacting with and reaching out to your fellow man, be it, just saying hi to somebody on the street, or, calling a friend you haven't talked to for a while. The pandemic is destructive for a number of ways, but it's been destructive for our social relationships, and just checking on people. A lot of people have lost touch with friends and loved ones, and it's been easy to let people kind of, fly under the radar and lose track of them. And just, reaching out to others and trying to interact in a meaningful way other than just a social media like or a text message here and there can really put yourself in an empathetic situation where you understand where somebody else is coming from and what the struggles they're going through.
All right, and that's candidate Robert Blackmon. Thanks for stopping by the Catalyst Studio.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and hope to be back soon.